For the last few days, I took my old DJing computer. It's a 6-core AMD processor, and I've been running it as a hypervisor on a different hard drive. And that's what this guy is here, my .6 network IP address. So it's not a lot of specs, 6 by 3.5 gigahertz, CPU power with 8 gigs of RAM. Not a lot, but it was enough for me to do a couple test of concepts, figure out some of the networking stuff I needed to simulate. And at the moment, it's only running 2 different things. One is pfSense. There it is running. And the other is the subsonic thing, my music server. So I no longer had to run that on the secondary desktop PC. So now my goal is get the server that I now have a drive in to take over. You've served your purpose for now. Depending on what they tell me Monday, then I can try and figure it out. And the server, as you can see here, is 8 cores at 2.9. It should be 2.93 gigahertz, but I believe it's technically 16 threads when it goes through the hypervisor, but it doesn't really matter, right? And 32 gigs of RAM. So a reasonable amount of everything. Now, I already plugged in the USB drive and booted it up. It's running. I got a monitor up there that lets me see that it's physically on and all that. The VM workstation is normally for hypervisor, type 2 hypervisors. However, I have been using it heavily as a form of remote interfacing with the VMs because it's so fucking convenient. I'm not certified in any of this shit. In fact, I didn't know how to do any of this shit not that long ago. I was literally just chipping away at it. And that's how I figured things out. Trial and error, crash coursing everything. I call it the hacker's approach, but I don't mean hackers as in I'm hacking into your fucking system and causing trouble. No, I mean literally crash dummy, fucking head first. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to break a lot of shit trying to learn and figure out. And that's how I get there. Now, one cool thing I saw is, after playing around with this enough, is they have a web interface now that they did not used to have. This is the server, the actual server. I'm going to call the computer I was using, the desktop computer, the test server from here on out. Because it was a simulated environment. It wasn't hardware designed for this type of purpose. So just logging into the web interface, this is where we're at. And I eventually learned that the web interface is limited. It really is. So there was a few things I was not able to do. I'll have to license this in a moment here. I have to use the restroom in a second anyway, so I'll be back in a second. You guys will not even know I was gone. Okay, so I'm back. I wanted to vape, and while I was vaping away, I decided because I'm not doing live, I'm not going to record myself vaping. If I can avoid it, without having to edit all that stuff, so on and off, edit it as necessary. When I was vaping away, I did the licensing crap. So now I have licensed vSphere or VMware ESXi, whatever the heck. Like, I don't even know all the naming conventions and stuff. It's a confusing, complicated thing. There's a reason that people are certified for this shit. I'm not. I'm literally, I learn as needed. Let's see. So, what do I want to do first? Well, First off, all the specs look correct. I can see that there's no storage. Its capacity is at 0. Now, there is a drive in here, and I've experimented enough with the test or simulated server, PC, whatever, to learn how to use this enough to get it to do what I wanted it to do. Oh look, a little packet loss. Let's see here, my devices. Here we go. I believe it is... Now this is what's running. I have the ESXi running on the USB flash instead of a drive. This one looks like it's the one. It's got the capacity. I don't know. I thought that said 1 terabyte for some reason. It would be this guy. It's running through their PERC 6 controller. Alright, new data store. I'm just going to call this thing data store 1, 2. Just data store 1, whatever. I don't know. Google Disk VMFS 6. That's like their newer file system. I don't know how to get that to apply to the installed OS. The USB is VMFS 6, and I saw no options to change that during the installation. So I don't really know what the deal there is, but at this point, the 2.5 inch drive, that's 1 terabyte in size, is plugged into a RAID controller, but it's only one fucking drive. I'm not doing a RAID in this specific setup. That's what the goddamn 3.5s were for. But it's still, I created a virtual drive in RAID 0 through the hardware controller. So now I should have a data store and minus overhead, etc., etc., etc. There it is. So now I can do stuff. Alright, so I gotta decide what I want to do first. Let's see. I think the very first thing I'm gonna do is try and recreate my network setup. That will make the most interesting video, and it's kind of the most critical core aspect of the entire system. And there was a magical element to making this whole thing work. And it wasn't the web interface, nor was it using the VMware Workstation 12. It actually involved vSphere, which is a now deprecated client. Now it's like you got to do this more complicated looking controller server installation type thing, but there's minimum requirements of at least like 8 gigs of RAM, and I couldn't run that in my test environment for shit. I tried, and I did find a way to do it, and it sucked. But it did technically do it. But for now, I'm just going to use this. This is every time I've looked for Google or YouTube videos and all this stuff, everyone was using like a vSphere client of some form or other. It was really hard to get the information I needed as I hit different problems, which is part of the reason I'm kind of like recording and documenting this now. Maybe someone will find something useful, or maybe not. Who cares, right? Whatever. But in this case, what I need to do, now this system has a Intel network card of some form, and it has 4 ports. And right now I'm plugged into port 1, which starting, if you count from 0, should be this guy right here. Otherwise I wouldn't have internet on the server. But for pfSense, I'm going to end up adding 2 more. Let's take a look here. Yeah, it's definitely got an IP